But that's the thing that's been so impressive about this is they've managed this roster through this salary cap, and I don't think anybody's had this large of window that we've been able to pull off. And I think that's all the light's gonna get shed on that when down the road now when this is all defined. But I think you're gonna hear about this team in a completely different light than what people realize. I think we're on the cusp of doing some really special things.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank. If you're thinking about starting a business or know someone who is, check out Emprise Bank's SBA loans. It's always good to know your options, and they can be your partner in possible.
What is up, Chiefs Kingdom? Welcome into this week's edition of Hang Time with Dustin Colquitt. I am not Haley Lewis. I'm sure you guys probably know that already by clicking on to the show. Haley Lewis, a little bit under the weather. I'm talking Franklin, stepping in today, hanging out on Hang Time with Dustin Colquitt. Dustin, how you doing this week, my man?
Man, I'm doing great. My Vols won against Florida, which was huge. We had a little bit of a disappointing ending to the Royals season, but so pumped, so proud of them. I can't wait to see what they do through spring training, coming up. They're going to be, I think the fire was lit for sure.
Yep. Very similar to like that 2013 year, right? Remember when they kind of eked into the play, or they just missed out on the playoffs. This time they get into the playoffs, and it kind of sparked the run for 2014, 2015. Those two World Series run kind of feels a little bit similar to that type of years in Kansas City, which, I mean, look, there was a lot of good things happening in Kansas City that 2013, 2014 with, the Chiefs and even the Royals too.
Oh, unbelievable. I felt like as players, we didn't get any sleep because once it got into that October baseball, like we were trying to prep for Monday night games, sometimes Thursday night games, but then we were having these, divisional series baseball games there. We wouldn't get home until 1 o'clock in the morning and then have to be back over to the facility. I mean, it was great, right? Great problems. And that, really, when I think about that Royals team is they kind of through the All-Star break, they took a little break, took a little breather, and then boom! Nobody could catch it. It was unreal.
It's good. It's always fun when the city's buzzing with both teams. That's always fun when both teams are playing at the same time. And we've had the opportunity that this year. And look, now we're back on the saddle here with Hang Time. We got a big special guest coming on here for the bye week, coming out of the bye week, coming up with a big matchup against San Francisco. But Dustin, before we dive fully into your interview with Allen Wright, equipment manager for the KC Chiefs, talk about a bye week as a player. I know a lot of times, sometimes, especially now, we see Travis Kelce gallivanting across the globe on his bye week. What was it like for you? What was it like for players for these bye weeks?
Yeah, it was a kind of a chance to kind of recharge your batteries. Obviously, get your body right if you had anything kind of going on. But also the way Andy Reid does bye weeks, especially during the season. You were gone all week. I mean, you come in for a team meeting on Monday, and then he'll say, I'll see you next Monday. I'm expecting nobody to have any issues, right? So you were scared into death of enjoying yourself, but not unplugging too far. So right. I enjoyed, being down at the beach with my wife, kiddos. They'd usually leave like a week earlier back when we were homeschooling them. And man, it's just a great opportunity to recharge your batteries. When I see, a back-to-back Super Bowl champion being 5-0, going to a bye week where you can hit the reset button and recharge, I can't think of a better situation for us.
I agree. We got a lot of good stuff coming up in Chiefs Kingdom. Also got a really good interview. Dustin, you're hanging out with Allen Wright, equipment manager here. Over 700 games for him. And we were chatting beforehand, that is incredible to put into perspective of how many games with a single team and just in a career that is. When you talk about having 17 game seasons now, looking like 20 games if you're making it all the way to the Super Bowl. But if you just think about that, divide that out, if you're only doing 20 games max a year, and that's just a recent thing, it's a lot of years with one team, Dustin.
Oh, absolutely. I think of, Will Shields, as I got into my later years in Kansas City, looking at 230 something games that he played in. And I'm like, I have to play here for 30 years. That's what the math seemed like. And then when in 2013, when Andy got here, Allen was celebrating his 400th year with the Chiefs. And then, so you're going another decade plus. like 11 years, and all of a sudden you got 700 games under your belt. And when I go back and you'll see as this interview comes up, is he was life-giving. He would breathe life into some of these guys that were married, and the lack of sleep, and just trying to win ball games, but also having young kids and families. And man, he and Miss Lisa were fun to watch. How they did things, because he always brought her around. She was in and out. Andrew grew up in the locker room, and what a good kid. I got to see him last week in Arkansas, and so I'm really looking forward to catching up with Allen as I get to see him at the lake too over the summers.
That's true. Let's go ahead. Let's get into it. Here's Dustin's conversation with Chiefs equipment manager, Allen Wright.
Shop Chiefs tickets and more with no fees. Plus, save big with code KCSN at ticketsforless.com, the official ticket provider of KC Sports Network.
I know that backdrop all too well. Spent a lot of time sitting in that seat. You still have the seats lining the wall right there.
Yeah.
A lot of unbelievable memorabilia in those back little slots in there from Tony Gonzalez. I mean, all the greats that you've been able to really be, I'll say, equipment manager, however you want to title this, but really more of a father figure for a lot of these guys that came and went out of that building.
Yeah, kind of time has changed my role a little bit over the years. You started here in the early 80s, you was younger than all the players, and then you were the players' age, and you kind of ran the streets with them a little bit, and then you got older and had kids, and now they look at me more as a grandfather, which is not always a good thing. I'm not ready for that yet, but yes, the role has changed, but I really embrace it and enjoy it.
Yeah, well, you're the best at it, and I got to spend 15 seasons with you, and I have to say one of your best qualities, and we're talking to Allen Wright, longtime equipment manager for the Chiefs, just celebrated 700 plus games worked. I know last year was your 40th season, which I couldn't believe that, because that means that I've known you for half of your time in Kansas City.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. But your mantra is not having something is not an option. And I remember in college, and this is one of those things where just because of the stress and the heat of the moment and like everything, I remember being super stressed out that I was going to leave cleats. And on more than a number of occasion, they would take a golf cart back from Neyland Stadium, go down Philip Fulmer Drive, go to the complex, and bring something back for me and like millions of players. Never, and you're probably going to correct me here, but never did I have to worry about it, at least, because everything was on deck. I'll say it like that.
Well, I early in my tenure here, I was a third guy in the equipment room, and we got on the road somewhere, and we were missing something, and everybody kind of pitched in and packed back then, and so nobody really wanted to own up to it. So I went into the guy that was my boss at that time, and I said, I want to pack every one of the travel bags from here out, so there's no question whose responsibility it is. And I've continued to do that to this day. I have a little checklist, and I go around to each travel bag real early in the morning before you guys get here and write down, all my little notes and update it as the week goes. Guys get elbow pads or elbow braces or whatever it is that's ailing them at that time. And I pack all that stuff ahead of time, and I take a lot of pride in it. And that doesn't mean I'm not going to sit here and tell you I've never made a mistake, because I have. But we've always been able to cover it up a little bit and nobody figure it out. But I take a lot of pride in that, because I always look at it like the less the players have to worry about on game day, the more their thought process is towards what we're doing, which playing the game. And so we try to use that to this day.
Yeah, I remember, a lot of people spend a lot of time hanging out in the training room. It's not so much that way. I remember in KC, I remember a lot of people hung out in that equipment room. I think it's because it's the people that you kept in there. I remember Mike Davidson being such a good, solid Catholic, father figure type. And you were the same way, but it seemed like there was a lot of traffic always, not just at your window, but coming in and out of that place just because of that personality. Everybody wanted to be around you guys.
Well, I've always looked at it like this. A lot of people think that fitting and all the different things we do here in the equipment room is the most important thing. But to be honest with you, being a people person, because you are dealing with so many different walks of life. You're dealing with kids right out of college that don't have two nickels rubbed together to multimillionaires, to famous people, a lot of ego, a lot of testosterone in that locker room. So I always prided myself on trying to find a way to communicate with everybody. And really, I would tell you, I think that's the most important part of being an equipment manager.
Yeah, that's tough. And I know you did such a good job of treating everybody the same way, differently based on their personalities, right? I mean, you have to do that. There's countless times I've been in there, seen you on the phone, just with that father white face, kind of like, oh my gosh. And it's just about, helping some, you're the team's, you happen to be a team psychologist.
I appreciate you saying that. I don't know how much I agree with part of that. I mean, over the years, that's I've kind of gotten a little bit of a reputation for that, but I love the environment. I love the competition. I love the fact that we get to go out and compete each week, and with a guy that wasn't athletic enough to play, it's about as close as you can get to it. And I still enjoy it. I still enjoy game day. I still jump up and down and go crazy, and I take the losses hard. But I enjoy every minute of it. I've been very, very blessed.
Yeah, and I remember when you made the transition from spotting the ball, you were running up and down doing all that stuff, and then it got to the point where you were like, hey, it's like me. I share the same thing. Me, you, all the other equipment managers, and probably the kicker and the snapper share that same thing you're saying. We weren't quite athletic enough, but we could either kick, snap, or punt a ball. So we managed to find our way into that facility. And you said something, the wins, losses, all that stuff. Really, these last, if we just look at these last 3 years, the 2 Super Bowl, the back-to-back Super Bowl, this opportunity for a three-peat, which has never been done in the National Football League. And you guys start out a season 5-0. It's got to be the first time someone's gone back-to-back and been 5-0 going into their bye week. And, how are you feeling there?
I believe I read that somewhere.
Yeah.
That was a first, but it's gratifying. It's I think I enjoyed a lot more than most because of the first 30 years of my time here. We got our heart broke a few times there in the Marty Schottenheimer here, and so I think I have a little bit better perspective of it and enjoying it a little more. And I would never bet against this group. And I don't matter what happens going forward here. This group's battle tested, and I like where we're at. I wouldn't want to trade places with any other equipment managers in the league.
Oh, absolutely. We talk every now and again on the 50s team, the 60th anniversary team. I got to be a pleasure on being on both of those teams. Love all the decal patches. Love when in 2010 we got to wear the state of Texas. Bring it. Seems like you came from Dallas. You have been there so long and done such a great job there. When I think about some of the success that's been over there, that you've gotten to experience, when teams come off of back-to-back Super Bowls, you usually have really huge key departures. Obviously, Snead leaving, that was a tough blow, but you have been able to gain guys in the draft and through agency better than anybody else in the league. A guy and general managers have not been able to draft and in free agency win to be able to beat you guys. And that speaks to the culture that you guys created in that equipment room, the training room, Mark Donovan, Brett Veach, and Coach Reed.
Yeah. Coach Reed is special at obviously him and Brett finding talent and people that fit our culture. I can tell you, I go out in that locker room right now, there isn't one bad person in that locker room. And that's rare. Usually, a couple guys slip through the cracks, and you get a couple kids that they're kind of hard on you. But we have a wonderful locker room and culture. And I always say this starts with the head coach. I've worked for a few other head coaches that were a little bit different. And the coaching staff treats us as the head coach treats us. So if the head coach gives you a lot of respect, then everyone else will too. And I appreciate that about Andy. Andy's been, I was a huge Marty Schottenheimer guy. Marty was a good friend of mine and enjoyed working for him. But Andy's a special guy, and I'm glad for this to be the end of my tenure and hopefully end it with him.
Yeah, for sure. And I know that he has talked you out of retirement, and he's probably going to continue to do that until he's done, which I can kind of envision. I know that you have been there for a long time. You got really good dudes that can take over. Actually, matter of fact, I forgot to say, I got to see Andrew. I know you I text you a picture in Arkansas. I got to, I got to hang with your son a little bit. He's working for Dragon Seats, right? Is that?
Yep.
And man, what a great young man. I mean, came up, gave me a big hug. And I asked him straight up, I said, man, I know every year Andy's like, no, you're not. You're not done. And he keeps on kicking your can down the road and saying you're not going to retire, not do this. Why don't you go back up there to Kansas City? And this would only come from your son. And he said, man, Cale, Schropp, Jay, like he started going off the list of guys that have earned their way into like being that next guy. And I just thought that spoke volumes of true.
I have a great staff that, it's just like any other business. You're only as good as the people are that are around you. And I have a wonderful staff. I'm very blessed with that. And I look forward to retiring at some point. I'm getting close. It's in the general vicinity, but not yet. I mean, but I'd like to be a part of a three-peat if that.
Heck yeah,
get that opportunity. And I still, like I told you before, I still really enjoy it. And I'm a little bit nervous the closer I get to it, of what I will do with all my time, because I do obviously spend a lot of time here. And, I'm one of those real early guys. I'm not quite sure what I'll do with all my time, but I won't be the first guy that ever went through that. So we'll figure it out.
Well, I have a feeling what you're going to be doing in between May and Labor Day. Hopefully we spend a lot of time at the Lake of the Ozarks together during those retirement years. We got a great place in that.
I agree. That's one of my favorite places to visit. We just got back from there this weekend, had a wonderful bye week down there, my wife and I, and we have a lot of friends down there at the Lake of the Ozarks that we consider almost family. It's one of those few places that I really enjoy going. My grandmother lived down there, and my best friend lives down there. So I've got a lot of connections down there to keep taking me back down there, probably more than I should, to be honest with you.
No, I don't think that's such a thing. I know we started going down to the Ozarks, it's got to be 12, 13, 14 or so years ago. You probably much longer than that. But I remember going down there and you'd see a lot of KU flags, Mizzou flags, because it's hour and 19 minutes, straight down. And man, Chiefs Kingdom has literally taken over that lake. It was already there, but now everybody's showing. It's unbelievable to see all the red down there.
One of the cooler things I've seen recently, and I'd never really thought about it before, but there's these people that they all tie up and cove out and watch the Chiefs game. And
no way.
When we score, you can just hear them screaming across the lake. It's pretty cool. It really is.
That's unreal. And it's, I miss, this is going to be a shout out to some other lake people, up north in the Northland, Barry and Lisa Ginter. I know, we started a thing. I was back in 2020, not on the field, up in the box. We started this thing. Like if it started out, not so good, not so rough, and it looked like, things were going, we were taking a shot of Fireball. We said, hey, just Fireball. So the other day, we had a game that wasn't kind of going. I think it was Baltimore, and it just go back and forth, back and forth. You're going to have those games, but I get a video from the Ginter box right there, and they're like, Colquitt Fireball. And so I'm like scrambling to get a shot. I'm tell you what, we ended up pulling away.
Hey, we all have our own superstitions. Hey, we all got them.
Whatever it takes. I know, my favorite story, I think, from the Super Bowl, which is, I think you get a lot of mail. I've gotten a lot of mail. I know I can't imagine some of some of our players, that offense, defense, the 3 Super Bowl winner guys, back to all this stuff. But I remember some of my favorite mail that I've gotten is stories about how, like, husbands or wives lock their husband or wife into a bathroom because they scored in the Super Bowl. We pulled ahead. They wouldn't let them leave. I mean, some of them with 5 minutes to go Super Bowl game, and they're just watching Game Tracker on their phone because they're like, no, you're staying in there.
Oh, yeah. No,
it's amazing.
We've had some players over the years that have some weird superstitions as well. So I know exactly what you're talking about. We had a defensive lineman once that would eat raw garlic in his locker before he would go out on the field. And he did it, 1, because he was superstitious about it, and 2, he wanted the guy across him to hate him. So there's nothing worse than having garlic press for 3 hours in your face.
Yeah, it's the old school. Like, if your guy goes to the bathroom, I want you to follow him, and wait till he gets back out. And you're like, yeah, no, I get that. You said Marty Schottenheimer, which I'm a huge friend of Brian Schottenheimer. Love that family. I did not get to spend any time with Marty, but I remember one of the earliest stories that I heard you tell me from River Falls, Wisconsin, is about just. And it kind of, I would imagine that it kind of formed how you treated people, knowing that, hey, there's going to be some people in the building that you like, you dislike, but, they may be a very viable way for us to push and win for a championship. And so you got to kind of micromanage that in what's a top 100 company, the NFL. It's not maybe on that exchange, but it's considered that. And I remember you saying Marty Schottenheimer, you guys would be working hard and doing all the equipment stuff, cleaning up the locker room, doing all that stuff. And then he's like, hey, we should grab a beer or whatever. And you're like, I can go get beer. He goes, no, it's in the cooler already. Like, wasn't he known for like, no, we need to like hang out more than just X's and O's?
Yeah. First of all, he was one of the most wonderful people you'll ever meet. Just no matter that he was a football coach or not, just as a man, just as a Christian, I might add. But his family, like you said, all of them, top to bottom. His daughter, obviously Brian. I've known Brian since Brian was probably 10, 11 years old when he started hanging around out here and working in the equipment room, and was a kid that was you would have never known his father was the head coach. Whatever terrible jobs that we had, he did. He never threw up that his dad was head coach, and he's one of the nicest people, and the family. I was very fortunate when they buried his ashes back here in Kansas City. I was able to spend some time with them when they came back. It meant a lot to me that they included me in that. So I am extremely close to that family, maybe more on my side than on theirs, but they just meant so much to me at a time when, I was young and coming up in this business, and I'm glad I got to do it through them. I really, really would have liked to won a Super Bowl with that group just because there were so many people that deserved it. And, that's one of the things that you kind of feel about. There's so many players that come through the doors here that I always say leave their soul out there on that field every Sunday, And
Yep.
There's a lot of wonderful players and people that left their soul out there and never got an opportunity to compete, not only for a Super Bowl, for playoff games. And, so, you feel like hopefully in some way some of those people are able to live vicariously through us that are still there. I know a whole lot of former players that wear that Chiefs banner really, really proud.
Oh, man. And we have the best, the Chiefs ambassadors are the best, post NFL career group, I think, in the National Football League. They do such a good job of, the organization does a great job of utilizing them in the community. And I mean, they're giving Super Bowl rings every year, and just, they still feel very much a part every year. You guys, you organize it with Coach Reed, having those players back, giving them, opportunities to come and kind of speak some life into these new players and let them, they say their position, where they played, how much time they spent here in Kansas City. And it's amazing. Even through this podcast, Hang Time, I've gotten a chance to talk to Tamba. I talked to Dick Vermeil. It's fun. Dante Hall, guys that, that all speak super highly of you, that, like you said, blood, sweat, tears, lost sleep over, losses and wins and stuff. And, Dick Vermeil was amazing a few weeks ago here on Hang Time, and he was a little bit late to join us. And you're going to crack up if you hadn't already watched the episode, but as he finally, hey, I'm getting on right now. He comes on and his shirt is two-tone, like some kind of different, like it's different colored. You can see like a wave pattern like this. He puts a ball cap on. He goes, "Hey man, I'm sorry. I had 2 oak trees that fell down up here in Pennsylvania, and I've been chainsawing with a couple different chainsaws all morning. I had breakfast with Miss Carol. I told her I was going on with you, and I just got lost out there cutting this tree down." He's like 87, right?
Oh no. He never slows down. He looks wonderful for his age. I would say this too, talking about the ambassador group. One of the highlights of my whole career, about 2-3 years ago, they had an ambassador event, and they asked me just to take, they take a photo as a group every year. And they included me in on that. I thought that was pretty cool because technically I'm still working and I'm not a player. So to be considered in that group was one of the highlights of my career.
Yeah, and I'm not surprised by that at all. And I love when you talk about stuff like that. There's some emotion. I recently watched a video just preparing for you to come here on Hang Time, and when people just speak the words of it being 40 years last year, I remember it hit you like a ton of bricks, because when you're in the tall grass like you've been for so long, as you know, you really don't want to, you try not to get caught up in it until you want to reflect and like look back. And during the season, it
happens more as you get older, as I'm sure you know.
Oh man, I mean, every day I watch film because I punt to these. I'm a coach at the University of Tennessee. I work with the kickers and punters, and man, I'm punting 3 days a week still. I mean, and I watch film and I'm like, I couldn't say this last year or 2 years ago, but I could go in a game right now and get a team through that and be fine, because I'm kicking so much. I miss it. So I miss seeing you every day. I miss punting with Jay White every day. And I don't know that every player can say that for every organization, because it's just not like that all places. I remember as a young married person with a couple kids, I remember that you went through something in an off season, and I remember chatting with you about it. And you said, I said, "Hey man, how's Lisa?" And you're like, "This is the best part of our marriage. It's the best I've ever had. It's the best I've ever felt. It's the best she's ever looked." Like, you were pouring into your marriage. And I remember, like, as you're playing that game and you're flying to LA and New York, and you're so busy, and you haven't slept at home because you got little kids, and you're like, "Man, this is tough. I just wish it was me and Christia." And I remember you had encouraging words and situations of like, "Man, it only gets better." And that's unbelievable.
Yeah, I'm very, very blessed with that. As you can tell, one thing about my life, I've kept the same job forever, and I've kept the same wife forever. So apparently I don't like change. So, so we've been together 33 years now. And so she's been with me the majority of my time here, and foresee her and my son to enjoy the success that we've got to have down the stretch. That's one thing about, having children. They get caught up in all this thing too. And when the good's good, it's great. But when it's bad, it's really bad. And so for them to be on this end of it here at the end of my career means the most. Like, I'm having a blast with it. I know they are too.
Yeah. And going back to the lake really quick, because I know that like Christia this summer and last summer, like we really started hanging a lot. She started, coming out, because what people don't realize about the Lake of the Ozarks is there's a great live music scene. Great food, good pool decks, the boats are fun to watch. So it's so big, and everybody kind of goes down there to hit the reset button, right? Just kind of relax it. I mean, you had a bye week, and that's where you went. It's something that you're like, hey, you had some time, and you're like, I'm going there. It's close, but it's also amazing. And I remember seeing you and your wife at the Wonderland camp thing that you do every year. You're kind enough to bring the Super Bowl, your Super Bowl rings, and just share it with people that want to give to that that camp down there. And what a worthy cause. You do that with everything you do. Is if you have gear or an experience for somebody to experience Chief Kingdom that can't make it. Some of these people I've never been. We hear it all the time in the lake. I've never been to a game. I can't wait to go to Arrowhead. But you bring it there, which is really cool.
Yeah, I enjoy doing that, and that's a wonderful cause. That camp that is one that we've been involved with for a couple of years now, and hope to be doing it, a few more years going forward. But the problem with my deal is we get, just like we get invited to a lot of charities that you wish you had time for all of them, but unfortunately you just don't have time to do that. But I enjoy going to the lake, and I don't foresee the lake not being in my future in some way or another. I'd like to buy a house down there at some point when this is all over. So we'll see you down there quite a bit, I'm sure.
That's right. Well, you don't have to buy one. You can just stay at mine.
I appreciate that.
Being 9 hours away, it's awfully hard to get back there. So we do about 30 days a year now for the past 2 years, which is still enough. It's still justifiable. And man,
yeah. Well, here's one thing about it: you won't lose any money down there. Well, I mean,
no.
not on a house.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's the truth. I want to segue a little bit here because watching the Chiefs, they keep managing to win these really tight games. It reminds me, I remember when I first got to Kansas City in 2005, and especially started 2007, we really found a lot of ways to lose games that we were in sometimes, but we just couldn't get over that hump. And I think one year with Tyler Thigpen in between those, 2009, 2006 to 2008, right? I mean, we had 8 or 9 games going into the 2-minute warning where we had the lead that we end up losing. And you have seen kind of obviously the changing of the guard when Clark Hunt said, hey, we're shaking this place up. I don't see this as a small market team. I see this as a championship team, a city of champions. We've done it before, and we can do it again. And he made a huge decision in 2013 on your 400th game, right? Your 400s. That started at the 2013s there. And kind of speak to that. We've talked about Andy Reid a lot, but kind of speak to those big decisions where they plug a guy named Mark Donovan in, and then Andy says, hey, we've got the business side kind of rolling with a guy we want, a huge, a great character guy, and then we need a talent evaluator because we're about to have to flip this roster over on its head, basically.
Well, look, I give all those individuals a ton of credit. There is no question, but I think Andy deserves a majority of that credit.
Big time.
I think he's his career is only going to get bigger from here. I think he's on the cusp of doing some things other head coaches haven't done. Of course, you can't do that without having a special roster, all right, and having the quarterback and Brett Veach to get the players to turn this roster over. That's the thing that's been so impressive about this is they've managed this roster through this salary cap, and I don't think anybody's had this large of window that we've been able to pull off, and I think that's all the light's gonna get shed on that when down the road now when this is all defined, but. I think you're gonna hear about this team in a completely different light than what people realize. I think we're on the cusp of doing some really special things. But that's the one thing about this group. You talk about winning games, and it's a culture. And this group, we've had some success at it. They've embraced it. Nobody hits the panic button. Nobody's cussing and yelling and throwing a fit. And I mean, this group they hang in there and play together. And I think as long as we can keep doing that we'll always have an opportunity to win.
Yeah, I remember when Brett Veach first took over, I remember he had a little bit different style than most, and I remember he would be on his phone, laying down on the turf, on his stomach, literally fully engaged, seeing who's hitting the market, what is our next move, watching guys work out, getting used to, guys' habits. You didn't know he was doing that at the time, but looking back, and I was big on taking pictures and photos and stuff, and I have all kinds of like videos, like scrolling, making fun of Frank Zombo and some of these guys, and you see Brent Veach in the back, literally like sitting amongst us, evaluating the chemistry of our roster. Yeah. I think that is wild looking back and I still to this day send like Pat and James and guys, funny videos or drawings I did in the quarterback room and all that stuff. And when they send that, they're like, oh my gosh, look, Veach is in the background working amongst all of us. I thought that was wild to me.
The other thing here right now in the culture that's here, there is no egos. I can walk in anybody's office in this building and feel comfortable. And that's not always been that way. You in an organization like this,
sure,
sometimes there's a lot of egos, but we're in a wonderful spot right now, and it's showing on the field.
Yeah, coach, you're right. Players point to the coaches and say, that they're drawing up everything how it needs to be, putting us in the right places, and the coaches are saying, "Man, I couldn't do this without this guy," and how he works on a daily basis, and how he comes every day to the weight room. And what he's doing on the practice squad. He's not taking days off. There's no vet days off.
No.
They're still doing visual stuff. And
like I said before, too, when you're two hardest worker, your two best players, that's Travis, Patrick, it forces everybody else to work harder. And it doesn't matter who you are. If they're going to be the hardest working guys, you have to also follow that same path.
Yeah, no doubt. It was definitely a fun thing to see. And I know that Coach Spags, I have a little bit of a special relationship with him. As a defensive coordinator, your specialists are key because they kind of create that long field. Yeah. Tommy Townsend did a great job. And the new lefty you guys have in town is really kind of bombing the ball. It's fun watching lefties anyway. I'm kind of biased, obviously. But I remember being at an event in downtown Kansas City one year. I'm probably 2 years post playing, and I'm sitting right in front of Spags. We're chatting. We probably chatted for about a minute, and somebody kind of pulls him, and he's like, I got to go, DC. Goes, and about 15 minutes later, he's up on stage taking a award for Chris Jones. Well, that next day, I get a text. This is to your point here about ego. The next day, I get a text. I didn't text him. I didn't call him. I just thought he was going to be gone. And he said, "Dustin, sorry, you know how we get pulled in every which direction. I didn't mean it to interrupt our conversation, but just wanted to say it was great seeing you, buddy, and miss you." And it floored me. But and these are head coaches become coordinators that absolutely, they die for Kansas City.
He's become one of my favorite as well. He's a guy that as much as I don't want him to see him get another opportunity, I want to see him get another opportunity. But he's a very personable person that has wonderful relationships with not just his players, with his coaches and with the equipment staff and the trainers. He's a very personable person that I really enjoy, and we've had a lot of success with him as our defensive coordinator, obviously. So again, it goes back to what we said in the very beginning. All of this, the common thread is relationships. And the more you can keep that atmosphere, I think the success will follow.
Absolutely. And, I think of the success that has been in that building. And I think of also a little bit of forgiveness as you have a guy, Andy is always great about second chances, and Kareem Hunt, seeing him run the ball the other day and getting back in the action in Kansas City. I know the first go around, wasn't what he wanted, how it ended. I remember, though, him being one of those guys that you wanted to be on the field at all costs. I remember at one point, he was my personal protector on punt team. He'd go down and cut return guys in half.
Yeah.
And then once he started to return the ball, obviously Dave's like, "Hey, we can't use him anymore." And I'm like, "Oh, I get it. I knew that was only a matter of time." Yeah. But speak about their ability to plug a guy back in they know or familiar with before, and guys are going back. Schuster Smith, whoever that may be.
Well, I think one thing about it, Coach, he doesn't burn any bridges. And to their credit, they didn't either.
Yeah.
Which is important in that whole process. and they were people that fit in this environment really well the first time I was here. The Kareem thing has been fun. I mean, here's a guy that was literally on the street, like at home, like didn't go to training camp, walks in here in the second week, he runs for over 100 yards and was impressive the way he was running the ball. And it was fun to see. It was very, very exciting on the sideline. Everybody was really into it. And he had a whole lot of cheerleaders the other day. Excited to see him have success.
Oh, I bet. I mean, I was pumped, and I was with him in Cleveland for a little while. And for the last 5 weeks of the 2021 season, and I remember chatting with him, and man, other than being engaged with the guys in Cleveland and stuff like that, I mean, all he talked about was his time in Kansas City and his hope to get back.
Yeah, my son was in Cleveland for a couple of years in the equipment staff, and he spent a lot of time with Kareem as well, and they had a lot of conversations about Kansas City. So it's good to see it come full circle. It'd be nice to win him a Super Bowl. So
I know, man. I honestly think if he was running the ball in 2018, we would have had a 3-peat already. There's no doubt about it.
I would have liked to have that opportunity.
Yeah, that'd have been fun. Well, so and we talked about your wife briefly. I know she's still obviously doing the real estate thing. Reese Nichols.
Yep, Reese Nichols. She she doesn't want to work full time. She wants to work when she wants to work, and she's earned that right. So she works a couple days a week, 3 days a week probably, and she enjoys it very much. She loves working with a lot of our players, and and enjoys that side of it.
Yeah, it's always fun having like that second thing to do to keep engaged. My wife in 2020. In the height of the pandemic, she decided to jump back online on K-State and do her master's. And now she is a full-time 8th grade honors math teacher at a Catholic school here in Knoxville, Tennessee. And I mean, it's amazing, like that little bit of balance that she gets, that sense of worth and that time that she gets to put in, and then that she can unplug when she gets home and kind of be
as much they spend a lot of their time for our careers as it is so demanding. I agree with that. I enjoy seeing her do her own thing and enjoy it and take a lot of pride in it. That's fun for me to see.
She does a great job, and man, I love getting to see her at Shady Gators, and anytime I can run into great people down there, I love doing that. Well, I do have a last question. I know you got to get back to going. I'm glad that you guys got to 5-0 going to this bye week, and you got a big test coming up. How do you see the rest of the season going? I mean, you guys have. When I look at your target list, Pat, he's so good at distributing the ball evenly. I mean, it's not strange to have 15 guys that have caught a ball, or here and there. You guys have managed, to get Travis involved that last week right before the bye. But, man, he had 2 and 3, all kinds of people, guarding him. And sometimes that's what it takes from one of your best players is he takes the attention off.
Nobody was panicking here.
No.
But everybody outside here was panicking, so that's kind of the norm for us. It's not always going to look the same. It's always going to be a little bit different because that's the nature of the business, right? But that's the part I think Andy's so good at. He adapts. I think I saw at one point last week we had 4 tight ends on the field at one time. I don't know if I've ever seen that. So that's how comfortable Andy is in his own skin and what he's doing, and he's only getting better. And he's getting better at the same time. You got Patrick getting better, and our roster getting better. It's going to look a little different. We've had some injuries that we'll have to work around. But I don't have any doubt that we won't find our way through it. And I think his mentality to break it down to just be good on this play, practice this week, and have that ability to get everybody to focus in. Very rarely has this group ever been a group that ever looked ahead and made a mistake. He does a great job of keeping everybody on point. He's been there and done that so many times, and he's so good at being personal about how he's pushing us along and And like I said, I give him all the credit. He really is about one practice at a time, one play at a time, and that's exactly how we're doing it.
Yeah, I always loved how he every day. It seemed he was telling all the players that he wanted our personalities to show.
Yeah,
you have to have a healthy ego to play in this league. You can't let stuff kind of bog you down and let you. He's always a next play mentality. I knew he was special, but I think we both figured out how elite he was when we were playing in London against Detroit, and we were 1-5. And I was expecting, do we let a defensive coordinator to go? Do we figure out, we don't have Joe Blameyer in the building at that point in the current capacity and pass game coordinator. And I remember he stood up, he goes, we're 1-5. Look, we got to focus on the next game.
Yeah.
We fly over to London. We beat Detroit. We didn't lose again, right? 11 straight games. And I remember.
I would tell you, too, I don't think very many people here could tell you what even the next game after that on the schedule is. I truly believe that. I think most people in this building know who we're playing that next week. And then we'll worry about that next opponent the week after that. I think he's done a great job of one, it's hard to coach the same guys over every year, where the message kind of gets lost a little bit, but that hasn't happened with him. He's done a good job of staying current, and I wouldn't bet against this group.
Oh no! Last year, I remember you lose 6 games, and I think it was Instagram or Twitter. I took to X and just said, believe when I say these guys are going to be right in the mix of the Super Bowl. And I got laughing emojis, crying emojis, just all like whatever, except for probably Chiefs Kingdom. But then I was in a podcast. I was at the Super Bowl celebration working it with Trent Green.
Yeah.
And I remember, I didn't even say I told you so. I just said, I had a feeling with this group, they weather all kinds of storms every week.
Yeah, and it won't be easy. We're 5-0 now, and it's not going to be easy. We're going to have our challenges going down the road, but I think this group is proven they're up to any of these challenges that we come across, no matter what happens with that roster. And we're never going to use that roster as an excuse.
Yeah, that's right. Is it the 72 Dolphins? I think this is the most nervous they've probably ever been because when you look at this crew, they find different ways to win. The game plan is always changing. And if the offense isn't just elite one week, the defense is. And then you have special teams flipping it over. Buck rarely misses.
Yeah.
He finishes drives for them all the time. I think the best thing that I can tell, and for anybody watching here in Kansas City and or just Chiefs Kingdom in general, is Andy is exceptional at delegating jobs to where he can fully focus on Patrick, who he ran into and said, look, anything that I put on paper, this kid can make happen, and we can play tennis with each other. Get the ball back and forth and say, this is what we're doing. We got Dave Tobe on special teams, which always keeps the ball close, flipping the field, or retaining Harrison Bucker this offseason. Spags, like you said, I don't ever want him to see him leave. I hope he pulls the Dave Tobe and just says, hey, I could be a head coach, but I love what I'm doing here with the guys that I'm doing it with. Like, it's a special place.
Yeah, and I've never really asked him that question. It'd be interesting to hear his feelings on that. I know it would have to be the right opportunity. It just be a opportunity. And I think if he wants that, he will probably get it at some point if he keeps having success that we're having. Looking forward to this weekend. Though, I mean, this is a good one. This is a good one. Hey, there's nothing better than going on the road and win against a good opponent. And this is an opponent that this would be a fun game. We'll have Joe Montana out there, which we always enjoy seeing, and Steve Bono, and there's a few old 49ers out there that come to all the games, which I really enjoy seeing the old guys.
Oh, I bet. Yeah. And when you play for both organizations and the recent history that we have had with the 49ers is just, it's played out like a storybook ending.
Yeah.
And, I know that I think it's Bosa that's said, like he literally carves his off-season program to beat the Chiefs. And it's amazing. I remember you and I early on in our Kansas City days when we're watching, we're playing in 2005, we're playing the three out of the last four NFL champions, the New England Patriots, come in and we beat them.
Yeah.
And you're going like, hey, because Dick Vermeil and his offense was unbelievable. You have a, top 12, 13-ish defense. And then I was just praying. I'm like, gosh, I got to punt well, or like, we don't have a chance. I'm the 12th defender as a punter. But as you see what Kansas City has done, I remember the same way we thought about New England now.
Yeah.
Now you guys have that huge target on your back. You're getting everybody's best every day. Not Sunday, Monday, Thursday, Sunday, and your off day. You have guys training to beat you guys.
Well, I would tell you this I don't wear my Super Bowl ring a whole lot, but this trip is one I'll wear it.
You have to. You have to. My first time out in San Francisco, when it kind of all clicked to me after being scared to death to be a third-round draft pick and failing in Kansas City, and Carl Peterson was like, this is a defender. We look him as a defender. And that was a lot of pressure. I remember going out to San Diego, and I remember talking to Lenny Dawson, and I remember him saying, like, look, I love being the quarterback of the Chiefs. Like, I love it. One of my favorite roles and most important roles was a holder. And it kind of woke me up because holding was just kind of like, I'm a punter.
Yeah.
And I also hold. But I remember him saying that and thinking about all the times that holding is way, way more important than I ever punted in a game. And, Dan was out there. I remember them getting out of car and talking with Lawrence Tynes like it was just yesterday. And you realize, no matter where we are, when the Chiefs are in town, it's an event.
Oh, no.
So
that way, that's for sure.
So, well, I appreciate you coming on Hang Time today.
I appreciate it as well. I don't get a chance to do a lot of these, so I appreciate it. I give my little 15 minutes of fame. I appreciate it.
Oh man, hey, you got almost 47 minutes going here, but we'll get this out for all of your friends, which are my friends, to see. Good luck along the way. I know you guys are going to have a lot of people, trying to knock you off the mountain, but I just don't see it happening. I love all the guys that you guys have in place there. It's taken a long time just to get it y'all corrected, and I have never seen and been more excited about a season and a team play so competitively through their bye week as a back-to-back Super Bowl champion. So go Chiefs, and man, say hello to everybody in Kansas City, Missouri.
Thank you, Austin. Appreciate it.
All right, Alan.
Bye.
See you, brother.